Good evening, light warriors. Welcome to my channel, Consciousness with Carlie. I'm going to wait for some people to come on. And while I do that, I want to introduce you to who we're going to be talking to tonight. Ireland Clark. So Ireland Clark has been a phenomenal woman for me to actually listen to. She's taught me a lot through her videos on YouTube. Can you guys hear me all right? Just give me a thumbs up. So on her YouTube, she teaches so much about DNA activations, our galactic history, our who we are, what we are, where we're going. So I'm really excited to talk with her tonight. If you are just hearing about Ireland Clark for the first time tonight, you may know her twin flame, which is Michael. He does host the Our Everyday Lives channel. And together they are a powerhouse couple, and they bring so much wisdom, so much education, so much light, so much love. So totally excited tonight. Let's get her on here.
Oh, how are you? Beautiful.
Fantastic. I'm so excited to get to connect with you. This is so fun.
I know. I'm so excited too.
Okay, so what's cool is that I'm from Utah. So
Right.
did you grow up in Idaho?
Yes, I grew up in Idaho, actually, yeah.
Cool. That's cool to know. But you were talking about, just real quick, with tribes and your tribe being in Florida. Do you feel like that's where your tribe is?
Yeah, it's the second Stargate over in Sarasota. So a lot of the Tribe 2 people are being called to Sarasota in Florida right now. It's pretty fascinating.
It is, because my shaman, we call him shaman, but you know, his soul family member, he's out there, and he was over here and moved out there. And then I sent him your video and I said, see if you resonate with this. And he's like, yeah, I definitely resonate with that. So super exciting. So cool. Okay, so I thought it would be awesome for people to get to know you, and probably me too, as we just talk on a more personal level about like our spiritual awakenings, our deep programming, and how we got out of that. So what was your process? What programs were you in, like, growing up, and how did you get out?
Yeah, I was in a lot of programs. I was brought up really poor. So I already had, poverty consciousness working, all that shame of thinking, oh, I'm less than, oh, these people have all of this stuff. What happened to me? Why did I get the bad luck of the draw? So there's all those programmings, not knowing who you are, thinking you're just subjugated to limitation. And so I was like really depressed, I was like, this is not fun. This is not a fun reality. This is like hell. Like, it felt like hell, and just parents and trauma with family, all of that combined together can just be a recipe for disaster. And I see a lot of, indigo, star seeds having issues early on, not knowing the truth, and they stumble into addictions. That's what happened to me, because they're wondering, they're like, this isn't what we're used to. We're not used to this density. We're not used to feeling so bogged down, so carbonated. We're used to being so much lighter. And so that's what happened, is a lot of people, including myself, we started taking drugs and getting drunk and doing certain things to raise our vibration back up, even though it's not sustainable and it's not good for you. It was a way to elevate your consciousness a little bit more. So that's what I started to do. I was doing crazy things. I was popping Molly, smoking weed, drinking at a very, very young age. You're like, me too.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, exactly. And you're like, wow. Like, I remember when I first took ecstasy, and I was like, this is so amazing. Like, I wish I could feel this normally without taking ecstasy. And I can say now that I can feel that way without any drugs, being completely sober. I can get to that point. But back then, that was the program, is you have to get high. You have to do something externally to be fulfilled within yourself. It was this like parasitism energy in the external, like looking around, trying to find, an answer, trying to find what's going to bring me joy in life. That was a lot of my indoctrination, and Of course, it's, you know how it is in school, you know, with the
Yeah.
lot of programming, and you feel like you're in some like prison, really,
Yeah.
early. Did you feel
And
like,
oh yeah, totally. I totally did. But I was heavily infiltrated with pharmaceuticals throughout
right?
like my whole high school. And I also was a touring musician, so at a really young age. So I did albums and stuff. So it's like I was brought up into this very like egotistical way of life that
Right.
was not like it wasn't fulfilling to me, but I felt like if I didn't continue to do it, that I would let so many of my family members down, you know? So it was like
Yes.
pharmaceuticals and having to like chase this like dream that I didn't even want. I didn't want it. And it was like everyone would be like, oh, you're so talented. You're so this. And I'm like, okay, well, then, I guess I'll use it. But it wasn't, I didn't realize that you can use those things in the light of God and really touch people's lives. But when you're doing it in a way that, is like serving the ego, it's miserable and you're in suffering the whole time you're doing it. But
Yes.
I mean, yeah, alcohol and all that stuff came on, right, after I, 17, 18 and all that. And it just got worse and worse. And yeah, I had to pull myself out too. But I was wondering, did you ever feel like, so like with me, like with alcohol, I always felt like I had a really hard time expressing emotion. So when I drank, I felt like I could express emotion and I would cry and it would feel so good when I would do that because I didn't know how to do that sober, you know?
Yes. Yes. Exactly. What the drugs and alcohol do is they push yourself out, they push your light body out so that you get to that higher level, that higher dimension of consciousness. Even though it's not organic the way you're getting there, you still feel lighter and you feel like, okay, I can release. You feel like you can connect more in. But again, there comes with consequences with doing that because then you open yourself up to the astral realm. You open yourself up to entities and spirit attachments. But for so long, that's how it was for me too. Like I would go to raves. I used to rave a lot. And that was the one reason why I loved to go to raves because everyone was in their heart space. Yeah, everyone
Mm-hmm.
was on drugs, but everyone
Right.
was, they're like, oh girl, I love you, and I'll be like, I love you too. And it's like we're all searching for that, but for the real organic connection, that's not hurting yourself in the process, right?
Yeah, it gives me chills because it's like I feel you. Like it's that connection. It's like you have this connection now with all these people and you feel so loved and you feel so loving, And then when you're not on the Molly or on the drug or whatever it is, you're like, you're just kind of like, oh, I can only now you think you can only get there if you're high. So
Yes.
you don't think that it's even real, that you can even do it without the drug.
Yes, exactly. It took me a long time to get off supplements, not supplements, stimulants, because I was doing the vape, I was taking Adderall, I was doing a whole load of stuff. And I feel like a lot of people, they're still struggling with it. But my word of advice to you is to continue to just ask to be released from the substance. Like I know a lot of people are vaping and stuff nowadays. Just ask your spirit guides, ask your higher self to assist you in that process because it takes time. It took me a long time to finally let it all go and let that chapter of my life go. You know,
Mm-hmm.
how did you
Yeah.
like?
So for me, like I'm still vaping. I'm still vaping.
You're
I
still.
don't I'm still vaping, yo. I don't know how to get out of this shit.
Oh my.
So I actually have been doing the same thing, exactly what you just said though. I started like because I've been battling this for a long time. I mean, I've been on nicotine since I was 16. I'm 26. So it's a long time and it's been like either a patch or a vape or a cigarette or something and I'm like, what's going to work? So I'm like, I've just been diving in and just asking for assistance. Like, and I have severe asthma. So I've been doing this my whole life. And I've been in the hospitals before with getting adrenaline shots to get my lungs going and still vaping. And they've told me if you keep doing this was years ago, you're going to die. And I still would not, I just kept doing it. This was before I was like spiritually awakened. But
Right.
now I'm at that point where it's like so it's like taking up space, right? It's like I know this and I'm aware of it, so now it's like getting broken free of it is like where I'm at, And I feel like it's not going to be because I'm doing something different with the habit, right? I can't, you know, I just want to break free of feeling like I'm chained to something that I can't get rid of, you know?
Yes, yes, 100%. That was the hardest thing for me to let go of the vape. I have a memory today of me literally throwing the vape into the forest because I knew I would keep digging for it if I threw it away in the so I had
That's
to
so good.
peace out, because
Yeah.
getting to that point too, like I would literally wake up in the middle of the night, hit the vape, and I was like, okay, I have to stop. But here's the thing, okay? People, for instance, one of my teachers, her name's Ashiana Dean, very intelligent. She's where I get a lot of this information from that you watch on my channel. She was a chain smoker. Why was she a chain smoker? Because the frequency that was coming in was so high, and I can tell that you're a very high frequency being, that the nicotine grounds you a little bit. It
I
grounds.
know, it does. I know. That
So
makes so much sense. Because even my man today, he's like, dang, baby, he's like, whenever you do a live and you get pumped and I'm like eating fruit and I'm drinking water and I worked out, and he's like, you smoke more or you vape more. And I'm like, it must be because I feel like I need a release from like the energy, you know, like it takes me out of my element and gets me somewhere else for a minute. It's like a meditative thing, you know?
it is. It
Yeah.
is. But at this point in time, it's not the best. It's not the best for your light body. Just
Oh, I know.
like I said, for anyone who's watching who has anything that they're addicted to, there's so many addictions. I'm addicted to things too, food, certain other things. But the best thing is to just keep releasing, keep asking, let me release this, surrender it, and affirm that you're letting go of the things that aren't serving you. And it'll take time. It'll take time. It'll be a purge, but
I'm ready though.
yeah.
I'm like over it at this point, you know. I'm just like, oh, I'm so over this. I'm tired. Like, I'm over it, and I'm like, I'm ready to like take that little bit of space, because everything else, you know, like food and working out and all that, I got this grip on, and there's that one thing taking up space, and I'm like, man, I cannot be, you know. And I've been in highly charged enlightened states where I'm like, zing, like, woo, like I'm high on life, you know. I don't need anything. But
Yes.
yeah, that's so great that you brought that to my awareness, because it makes sense that it is a grounding thing, and I'm ready to let it go. But I talk about these things because a lot of people go through these things, you know, and I don't want them to think that like just because you're spiritual doesn't mean that you don't have like authentic issues. Like everybody has them, you know, and they're hard to get through, but we're getting there.
Thanks for being vulnerable. A lot of people, they don't want to admit stuff, especially in front of people. So I applaud you for that. But I think this was divine intervention, because I don't know, this conversation just flowed out. So I think it was like I'm channeling something for you.
Oh, absolutely. I already knew that this conversation was going to be something, because I was like getting these really high energies, and I'm like, man, can we just start now? I still have an hour, but I'm just like ready to go. Like,
Well, you're amazing. I'm loving what you're doing, bringing amazing people on and bringing people together. It's truly enlightening, and you're
thanks,
doing exactly where you need to be right now.
thanks. But yeah, so more about like, when was it that you, like, what happened when you were like, got out of the programming? When was it an aha moment for you? Like, what happened, like, with your awakening?
Right. Well, I was waking up in beauty school. And then I was doing, I was taking the Adderall still, because I was like really having a hard time focusing. So I was taking Adderall and whatnot. So I was really wired. So I was able to my phone. And I wasn't eating. So I was in a fasting state. And when you're not eating, you can get more downloads. So I think it happened for a reason. But I started waking up and I was like, oh my gosh, there's something more than just the darkness. Because I knew about conspiracy. I knew about the Illuminati, all the bloodlines for years. Ever since I
Right.
was a child, I was like, okay, whatever. What can I do about it though? So finally, like I kept asking for truth. And then I saw the truth that like, oh my gosh, there's light, there's good. I can tap into a higher energy field. I can tap into higher consciousness. And I started to slowly start working, because it's a work, you have to keep changing beliefs, keep doing the internal. And so that's what I would do, you know, but again, there was still things, you know, that were really holding me back in terms of the addictions, you know, like I went to a healer and she was like, you know, your body's trying to detox from something, you need to detox from it. And I knew it was the Adderall. So I had to let go of the Adderall. I had to let go of all the addictions. I had to clean myself out. I had to start cleansing my body, juicing, eating raw foods, and then things started to change because I felt like I was in full alignment, you know, because what happens is if you're lying to yourself at this point in the time of ascension, it starts getting painful when you don't make a change that you know you're supposed to make. And when you start anchoring in higher consciousness, it starts pushing you. Like right now, I'm getting pushed to do more, you know, expand more, let go, let go. We're in a constant state of letting go. So I just continued to let go. And I was like, okay, you know, I met my twin flame. He helped me as well, let go of the addictions and the substances. And I started to really, you know, start creating from a place of sovereignty and a place of, you know, full embodiment of source, of I'm the holographic projector projecting out. I'm going to choose a higher timeline for myself. I'm not subjugated to the external like they told me. You know, I'm a powerless being. Oh, it's just the external. I can actually control from my thoughts, from my frequency into the outside. And once I did that, I was like, I'm free. I'm literally free. The only reason why people are not free is because they're locked in a prison in their mind. You know, imprisoned up here. They're not free. They're unfortunately victims. They're victims or victimizing, oh, it's their fault that my life sucks. Oh, poor me, poor me. Life happens to me. No, no, no. That's putting the power outside of you. So Ascension is all about putting it back within you, sourcing within yourself. Stop being a parasite outside of yourself.
Right. Oh, that's amazing. This is beautiful. Much love to you all. Thanks, guys. We love you too.
Oh, I think I see Marcel. What's up, Marcel? What about, how did you, when you started to let go of the ego and the programs, how did you start really changing? Like, what was your big aha moment?
So a lot like you, like the music industry is what woke me up to the Matrix, right? That's when I started realizing the wicked. And I'm like, oh God, like I flew home to, I was in Florida doing some management thing and I was like, I gotta get out. So I flew home and I told all of my family, I was like, you guys are gonna think I'm nuts, but you need to keep your phones at the house, turn them off and meet me at the house so I can talk with you. And so I was waking up to the Matrix too, you know, at like 19 or 20 after like some music stuff I did. And what happened is my dad died and then my uncle died. And when my uncle died, I actually wrote him a song and I held him in my arms as we let him go off life support. So it was a very spiritual experience, but I wasn't fully aware of spirituality and consciousness and all that. So it was a very painful experience, right? And like later on, my sister and I started messing with the Ouija board a lot. Ooh. And this is what started all of this, because we started talking on the Ouija board and we started channeling my uncle, and we knew it was him. Like he would, the way he would talk to us on the board and just his personality. And I'm like, we would just laugh. Like we would laugh like we're hanging out with him. You know what I mean? Just having full blown conversations. Right. And one day we were talking with him and we kept asking him questions. And he said to my sister, while we're using it, he said, Cass, because her name's Cassie. He said, Cass. And he went up to the Ouija name. He said, Ouija has no mind. And it was like we were like, Ouija has no mind. Like, well, we know this. There's no brain on the board. You know what I mean? There's nothing in the board. So what does he mean? Right? And we're like, well, it's us. But it's not just one of us, because it's both of us having a conversation. You know what I mean? And so we started really having this crazy like revelations about what the hell the Ouija board was and what we were doing, because we knew who we were talking to, you know? And when he said that, it was just such a mind-blowing experience. And I actually, when I realized that, is what I would do with my dad is I would take a pen and I would take a piece of paper and I would put my hands down and I would ask him to guide my hands and write down words. And he would. And he would write words. And it was my consciousness channeling, right? But I didn't know that. So he would write down words and they would be kind of jumbled. And then I would put the pen in the middle of the paper and I would let him push my body to connect the words. And that's how I would read what he was saying. And then I realized that it was too hard for him because he would be like, Carlie, this is really exhausting. Like, it drains my energy trying to spell out words all the time. You don't need to do this. And I'm like, oh, I don't even need to do this. It's all in here. Like, so that's when I realized, like, oh, I can talk to you all the time if I want to. I don't need any physical material item to prove to me that I am talking to my dad or my uncle or my grandma. I knew who I was talking to. It's an energy. You can feel it,
Right.
and he would do things that would just blow my mind. Like, I really liked this guy years ago, and I channeled, he's going to be at this place at 10:58. And I'm like, okay. So I drove to this place and I sat there, hadn't talked to the kid in 2 days. And I'm sitting there, girl, I kid you not. I look at the clock, it's 10:58. I look up and he walked in front of my car. And it was just confirmation. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, this is very, very real, and that's when I started really waking up to the fact that I was speaking, I was channeling. I didn't know what it was, I'm like, am I psychic? Am I psycho? Like, I didn't know, and I had just like barricaded myself in my room for like 4 months straight because my family didn't really understand like what was going on. Like, how do you tell your family, like, hey, your son who just died wanted to tell you that he loves you and he's with you all the time. So what I started doing is, instead of telling them things like that, I would say, hey, I had a dream, that Uncle Ty came, and I would tell my grandparents, and he said that he loves you and he misses you and he's always here, because they're very Christian. And my
Right.
grandma would get chills, because she'd get the chills and the resonation. But it's like, it's just how we portray it to people that maybe don't understand, but you can still get the message across without it freaking them out,
Yes, yes, that's beautiful. That's so beautiful. When I first woke up, you had like a beautiful thing with the Ouija board. I had a terrible thing with the Ouija board. Like, I was waking up when I first started my spiritual awakening, and my ex, but it was my boyfriend at the time, he apparently used a Ouija board with his aunt, and this like entity came out of the Ouija board, Zozo, and was like
Oh,
doing crazy shit. And that's what happened. That's when I started to realize that the spirit realm was real, because we would go to sleep, everything was fine, like nothing ever attacked me because I always have felt like I'm very protected. But he would wake up and be like, I had this scary dream. It felt so real. She was watching us when we were sleeping. And I was like, what the? I was like, yo, this is, and I was like waking up and I was like, oh my gosh, what is going on? And we had a healer come and pull this entity out of him. And it was literally like tentacles wrapped around his body. We pulled it out. Literally and that night, he goes to sleep and he has a dream that it goes right back into him down his throat. And he wakes up and he starts coughing. And I was like, what the? And that's when I knew. I was like, okay, this stuff's real. Like, there's like a real realm. Like, how did that happen? How did it go right back into him? And it was sad because he was totally an alcoholic. And that's what happens. When you're an alcoholic, you get entity attachments. So it easily attached to him. It didn't attach to me, but it was like strongly possessing him. And I was like, what the heck? So I'm happy you had a good experience with the Ouija, but that scared the shit out of me. Like,
yeah.
I was with the TV on every night. I was so scared. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, I used to freak myself out too, because I was obsessed with ghost adventures like my whole life, and I would just like, oh, that's so cool, and it would scare me so bad.
Yes.
But I think like I'm not telling people to like go get a Ouija board and let it give you a spiritual awakening, because I was just guided in that sense because of the way it happened and the way it worked out. But I know people that have had very intense, scary experiences, especially when you're asleep, like
Yes.
not conscious about what's going on. because your fear then feeds whatever's going on, and then you're either creating or bringing in it, because they're like, oh, they're scared, they're giving me attention, let's make ourselves known, you know.
Right, they're like, we won't mess with Carlie, she's a starseed.
Yeah, girl, I have tried, like, I know people where before I was like super consciously developed, or like my sister, like she's had a lot of dark things in her life, I think from past lives that she needs to let go of and stuff. But there was a point where like I asked, like, bring it on, I will take it on, get away from her, I will take you on, because I knew I had the power, and it didn't want me. You know what I mean? Because I wasn't going to give it any time of day. So it was like, that was before I was really like consciously developed. But I thought about that. I'm like, why couldn't I take on her demons? Oh, because she had created them and they were hers, and she needed to get rid of them, you know?
Yeah, I feel like it's like that was a lot of his demons coming out, like attaching to him, you know? It's sad. That's why you got to be careful who you surround yourself with, straight up. If you're around alcoholics, you're around people that are, you know, heavily sedated, they're going to have attachments, you know? So you just, you know, you don't have to be in fear, but you just got to be aware, you know, especially during this time, you know. They're, you know, the entities, they're hungry. They're waiting to jump on people to feed off of you. So you just got to really remain, that's why I'm saying, like, really remain like cleansed and pure, because they come in different ways, many different ways. You know, it's a war on consciousness out here, but we're winning.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely is. And that's so true, because, you know, you are who you surround yourself with. And even if you don't think that it's going to happen to you, if you think, oh, I can hang out with this person, it's okay, you know, I love them, even though they have a lot of dark energy with them, before you know it, you're already having infiltrated thoughts that aren't yours. Especially right now, as we're getting more telepathic. I've noticed this even in myself. I'm getting so activated telepathic wise, that if somebody is on drugs, girl, and they're within any type of vicinity of me, I immediately feel their high. I know exactly what they're on. I know if they're on coke, heroin, meth, you name it. I know what they're on, because I can feel it. I'm like, whoa, I'm zinging. I feel like I'm coked out. And I'm like, but I'm not. I'm sober. And then I look over and it's like, they're coked out. And I'm like, wow, this sucks for me, because it's infiltrating my energy, but I'm getting so telepathic that we can't even be near these energies anymore, because it's messing with our frequency. It's crazy.
Yes, we're getting sensitive. We're getting very sensitive to the environment more and more as the frequency is rising, you know? So I know more and more people are going to be, you know, changing and upgrading. So, you know, hopefully a lot of people can continue to release those attachments. It happens in time, you know. I still have to release things all the time. I'm not a saint. You know, we all have our things, but I feel like it's really just about continuously dedicating and being responsible over your consciousness at this time. Because if you're not responsible, your ability to respond to the environment and disciplining yourself during this time, it's easily hijackable within yourself. So
yeah, definitely. I resonate with that. How about shielding? What do you mean by like protective shielding?
Yeah, well, there's codes you can do for shielding. Like, for instance, there's a shield you can do to protect you from EMFs. Rasha era Krista now, Rasha era Krista now, Rasha era Krista now. So I just breathed in a bunch of codes. I just toned codes to help me protect me from the EMFs. So there's sacred geometry that you can use. That's why I like Ashiana Dean, because she uses a lot of the Chelonic sciences to actually protect in the actual realms, in the different multidimensional bodies of yourself, you know, to create kind of like a hub, so that you're in a safe zone, because there is so much happening outside of us right now, you know. Crazy attacks on us. But
what is her name again? Because I'm gonna be looking her up.
Yes, her up. Ashiana Dean. Okay. She's not really on anywhere. She's kind of low key. So you have to either go to her website. There's some older videos of her on YouTube. But I would just recommend, going to her website. You can get her books, Voyagers 1 and 2. Those are really, really good books. It really helps you understand kind of what's happened, galactic history, whatnot. I highly recommend that to everybody who's watching.
Cool. Thanks so much.
Yes.
And for everybody, because I know you're going to be doing a live like in like 30 minutes, go check out Ireland's live tonight. You're going to talk about DNA activation and apocalypse and what else?
Yeah, plasma apocalypse. What's happening to our light bodies during this time and how we're activating. You brought my energy up, so thank you, Carlie. I just took a plasma nap and I was like, oh, I have no energy, but I could feel your energy brought me up. So
cool. Thanks. Yeah, you brought mine up too. It's that divine connection, you get like a high off of it. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yes.
Cool. Well, I mean, we've already done 30 minutes. Do you want to get off and go get prepped for your live?
Yeah, I probably should. I gotta kind of review some stuff and get set up. It's a different layout. So I thank you so much for letting me come on, though. And I'm so connected. Beautiful.
Yes, thank you. I love you so much. You're gonna have such a good turnout tonight. I'll come pop over and listen to you.
Awesome. I'll see you then. And thanks to everyone who watched tonight. You guys all have a beautiful night.
Okay, thanks. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.